in the hushed cathedral of the pines, where the fog curled like whispered secrets, Eliza found her only true sanctuary. The world of stately homes and gilded cages demanded a version of her she could no longer endure, a dutiful daughter, a promised bride. But here, with the scent of damp earth as her only chaperone she could breathe, this was not merely writing. It was a ritual, a sacred act of defiance,
She wrote of
performed
stolen
in the
glances
quiet
across
witness
crowded
of the
ballrooms.
woods. She settled onto the cool stone, her movements deliberate, imbued with the gravity of her purpose. The quill, a sliver of darkness against the pale parchment, became a conduit for the words dammed up behind the walls of propriety. The scratching of nib on paper was the only sound, a heartbeat echoing her own. She wrote of stolen glances across crowded ballrooms, of conversations held only in their eyes. Each word was a memory, a fragile treasure polished in the solitude of her heart. A faint smile touched her lips, a bittersweet memory of a shared jest, a fleeting moment of impossible joy. But she was not entirely alone. In the high branches, a silent observer watched the unfolding drama. Not a creature of chance, but a messenger. Its eyes like polished jet, waiting for the words to be sealed. Her hand trembled as she wrote the closing words. Yours. A simple word, yet it contained the entirety of her devotion, a pledge that defied family, duty, and fate itself. With a steadying breath, she set the quill aside, folded the parchment, and walked to the old gnarled oak that served as their silent postbox. This was her leap of faith. As if on cue, a shadow detached from the canopy. The raven descended, its purpose clear. With impossible precision, it dipped into the hollow, emerging with the letter held gently. With a powerful beat of its wings, it ascended, her secret now entrusted to the wind. And then, silence. The agonizing pause between a question asked and an answer received. She did not have to wait long, but the shadow that returned was not the one she expected. From the opposite direction, another raven appeared, flying with a strange urgency, its form a tear in the fabric of the sky. In a swift, deliberate pass, it dropped its cargo. A piece of parchment, yellowed with age and sealed with a wax stamp she did not recognize. Confusion warred with fear. She knelt, her hand trembling, as she reached for the strange missive. The seal was dark red wax, stamped with the crest of a family she knew all too well, the family she was promised to. With a sharp intake of breath, she broke the seal. She unfolded the letter. The handwriting was elegant, precise, and chillingly familiar. It was her own. Yet, it was different, stiffer, more controlled. It was the handwriting of a stranger who wore her face. My dearest self, it began. I write to you from the life you chose not to lead. I am the woman who honored her family's wishes, who married for duty, who silenced the poet in her soul. I have the stately home, the respected name. I have everything, and I am a ghost in my own life. The world seemed to tilt. Before she could process the impossible message, another shadow darkened the sky. A third raven, identical to the second, descended. Another letter. She broke the second seal. This handwriting was hers as well, but rougher, desperate. I am the one who ran, it read. The one who threw caution to the wind for a life of passion. We have our love, yes, but we are exiles. We live in shadows, forever looking over our shoulder. Is this freedom, or just a different kind of cage?
The warnings
two letters,
from her parallel lives.
2 lives, 2 regrets. The forest was showing her the ghosts of her own choices. One was a life of quiet desperation, the other a life of fearful exile. Neither was the dream she wrote of. The air grew cold. The sky darkened, as if a storm was gathering in an instant. ravens began to circle high above, a swirling vortex of black feathers.
The first
Then,
words of a
one
life
broke from the
built on
flock.
courage.
It was larger,
She would
its
not run
wings
from her
carrying a
duty,
strange silver
nor would she
sheen.
surrender her
It did
soul
not
to
carry a letter of
She
aged
would
yellow,
find a third
but
path.
one of pure, stark white. It descended with a solemn, dreadful grace. This was the final piece of the correspondence. The twist in the tale. She reached for it, her fear so profound it had become a strange calm. This letter had no seal. As she unfolded it, she saw her own hand again, but this script was marred by tear stains, the ink blurred in places. It was the writing of a woman who knew regret intimately. A single tear of understanding fell from her eye as she read the final words. Do not send the letter. Both
Leave the
paths,
estate
you see,
matters to
are
me,
born of its
child.
flight.
Your concern
There
is
is
your
a third
embroidery
way,
and your
a
impending
path
marriage.
of patience, of courage, of changing the world
Your
instead of
duty,
escaping
Eliza,
it. Your future
our
is
family's
not
future.
yet written.
Lord
Please
Harrington.
choose wisely. The choice was clear. The silver raven, its duty done, gave a
I
knowing
have
dip of
secured
its
the
head
North Meadow
and
contract.
ascended, the flock
tenants were
scattering
stubborn,
into the
but a
clearing
show of
sky.
force is all they
Eliza
understand.
rose to her feet, a
Indeed,
new
my
strength
lord.
in her posture.
Though I have read that
She walked
crop
with
yields improve
purpose
with
to the
loyalty,
ancient
not
oak
fear.
and retrieved her
Perhaps a
original
small
letter.
investment in them.
Holding it one last time, a silent goodbye to the dream of escape, she tore the paper in two. It was not an act of anger, but of liberation. She tore the pieces again, until the words of passion were nothing but small white fragments, and let them fall like snow upon the moss. As the last piece settled, the world seemed to exhale. The unnatural gloom lifted, and the first rays of the true dawn broke through the trees, bathing the clearing in a warm, hopeful light. She returned to the letters from her other selves. They were no longer omens, but sad stories. With her bare hands, she dug a small hollow beneath the roots of the great oak and gave them a respectful burial, a final act of closure for the futures that would never be. That chapter was over. But
Grace
another was
is
just
wise in
beginning.
the matters of tradition.
She opened her journal
surely
again,
a society is
past the
judged
worries
not
and the
by its
fears,
adherence to
to a fresh, blank page. She picked up the quill, her hand steady, her purpose clear. She was not writing a letter of escape, she was writing a plan. Weeks later, the world of stately homes had not changed, but Eliza had. When her father dismissed her interest in the estate, she met his disapproval with a calm, practiced smile that hid a strategic mind. When her fiancé, Lord Harrington, boasted of his callous dealings, she no longer stayed silent. Perhaps, my lord, she had said, her voice soft but clear.
Eliza,
A small
I
investment in
don't.
their tools would yield a greater profit than any show of force. He stared, bewildered, a seed of doubt planted in his arrogant mind. She was honouring the ghost of her future self with every careful word. That evening, at a grand ball, she moved through the gilded cage with a new grace. Across the room, her forbidden love was watching. Their eyes met, and in his
Good day
gaze she
to
saw
you.
not
A
a plea
beautiful
for
day
escape,
for a ride,
but a
miss.
profound admiration for her strength.
What
He
exactly did you
understood.
do here?
She smiled, a
simply
radiant,
optimised our
genuine smile,
resources.
and returned his nod.
This arrangement
It was
is
a pact of
unconventional.
patience,
Your mind
a
is
shared
formidable.
belief in the third
But I
path
confess,
she was now
Eliza, it is
forging
not
for them
what I seek
both.
in a wife.
The fallout
I
was
understand,
quiet,
my lord.
but decisive.
A person
A
should not have to
duchess,
shrink themselves
publicly
to fit into
contradicted.
another's life.
A fiancé,
I wish you well.
increasingly unnerved by a mind he could not control, and a father who for the first time saw in his daughter not a pawn, but a player. The carefully constructed social order had been upended by a single quiet voice.
A visitor,
Months
Miss Eliza.
passed. The estate thrived under her secret guidance. The tenants, treated with wisdom instead of force, offered
It
their
is
loyalty
wonderful to
freely.
see you.
She had earned their respect.
And
Lord
you as
Harrington, seeing profits but
My dearest
unnerved by
Eliza,
their source,
this stroll with you makes
finally
every autumn
confessed
day
his
feel like
unease.
spring.
This is not what I seek in a wife, he had said. And with a gentle grace that stunned him into silence, she had agreed. The engagement was broken. The cage had opened. Alone in the quiet drawing room, she took the first true breath of a life that was entirely her own. Some days later, a visitor was announced. Her love, no longer forbidden, had come to call. Their courtship was not one of stolen glances, but of shared walks in the autumn sun, a meeting of two minds. On the eve of her wedding, she returned to the forest one last time. It was no longer a place of secrets, but of gratitude. At the base of the great oak, where she had buried the letters of regret, a patch of delicate moon-white flowers was now growing. She placed a hand upon the bark, a silent wave of gratitude to the spirit of the place and to the future self who had shown her the way. The midnight correspondence was over, but its echoes would guide her through all the dawns to come.